In this week's episode, we look at what are some little things we can do to wow our customers, how to deal with an underperforming staff member, and we talk about our prayer life. Hi and welcome to episode 51 of Business Greenhouse TV. Super pumped to be back in the saddle to film this one for you. August is a crazy month for us. So I'll be visiting four major cities with our groups. This week I'll be in Melbourne, and next week Gold Coast, and the week after Sydney, and the week after over to Perth to work with our groups there. So I only got limited time to get these shows out during the week in the office, and the rest of the time is travel. But it's really cool. Hey, we are seeking questions for the show. All right, so always looking for good quality questions that we can answer on here, and they can be about business, marketing, finance, staff, money in general in the kingdom. How to do business as a couple. In fact, they can be anything. All right, they can be anything, and we'll get to them. We'll answer them on the show, and I think that's the beauty of this program, is that it's your questions, and I'm just answering them with kind of my 2 cents. So if you've got a question, I'd love to get more in. Just put them in the comments below. So whether you're watching on Facebook right now or whether you're watching on YouTube, just go to the comment section below and type your question. And if you're listening in on iTunes, then send me an email at questions@wezhone.com. So questions@wezhone.com, and that'll come directly to me. All right, let's get into today's show.
Angela Wright Mitchell asks, what are some examples of the wow factor that you could incorporate into your customer service efforts?
So Angela, I won't talk about ours just because I don't want this to look like a bragging show, but I'll answer your question with some testimonies of this that we've done with our clients. In our internal organization, we're always sitting down and going, what are these little things that we can do to put into the business so that our customers have a better experience? But they're not always going to be kind of universal. They're going to be specific. So I'm going to give you some that are fairly universal and you can use as you go. Before I get into some specifics though, I think I want to cover off structure. I think one of the traps with wow factor is the inconsistency of delivery, right? So I see a lot of businesses that are trying to do an amazing job, like they're trying to trump the experience of their competitors and all these sort of things, which is great. It's very noble. The problem is that they're inconsistent in delivery. Right? So one time you shop with them, it's amazing. Next time you shop with them, average. Next time you shop with them, amazing. Then it's average. And as a consumer, we don't put up with inconsistent well. We'll just go and find somebody else that's consistent. And I can prove this through the fast food industry. I'm sure you probably agree with me that McDonald's don't serve the most wholesome, nutritious burgers that there are out there, but they built the biggest corporation for many decades. Why? Because it was consistent. You knew exactly what you were getting with McDonald's. Whether you went to America, Australia, Asia, it was the same food. You have to put that in speech marks, food. It was the same experience, the same delivery, same script, same look of store. Okay, so they were incredibly consistent. That is better. That's better than being wow one day and average the next, and wow and average, all right? So we've got to think about wow factor, and we've got to ask ourselves the question, what do we come up with so that we can deliver it the same every single time? Now, if you're a one-person business, that's a little bit easier because it's just you that's got to remember. But if you've got a staff that are delivering, you've got to make sure that they are following your systems and procedures in terms of the new wow. So before you put one in place, you better make sure that you can deliver it and your staff can deliver it every single time to every single person, okay? Because if we don't have that, and we have good and then we have bad, we just go shop with somebody else. And you're better off to be average and consistent than you are to be wow and then not so wow, okay? So just remember that, we've just got to make sure that we are always delivering before we try and be a genius. But let's say we can do that. What are some ideas? In my experience, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. And then you've got to look at the business in hand. Are they profitable enough that they could do something that costs money? Do they have the spare capacity that they can do something that requires time? A bit of both maybe. And to what level do you want to wow? So just to give you some examples, I worked with an accountant a few years ago. And they're an interesting bunch, right? Accountants typically are super precious about their 6-minute increments, and then they bill them accordingly. And I know there's a whole move of accountants now that don't do 6-minute increments. They do, monthly set billing, but they still very rarely let some time go out of the door without it being charged to someone. So I was working with this accountant and they had a few problems. Their biggest issue was their attrition. So they were just losing customers every year. They were putting some on and losing some and never growing. In fact, I think their attrition was higher than their acquisition. They were kind of going backwards. And they came to me, what do we do about this? And to me, it was obvious. And it's the same, actually, for most large accountancy practices. Because what happens is when an accountancy starts, they've got time on their hands. So they overservice their customers. They really love on their customers. They do a great job. They go above and beyond. Then they get to a point where they just become lazy and they just become a machine, just billing. And then the customers leave because they're just not getting much. Typically we hear from our accountants twice a year. Can we do your work? And here's the invoice, and it's just not good enough anymore. People expect more from the accounting world. So I've come along, I've gone, cool, let's fix that attrition problem. What we're going to do is every 90 days, we're going to look at every business customer's accounts, their profit and loss. We dial in. This was back when we had, this was before Xero. It's even easier now with access to bank feeds and things like that. Dial in and look at the profit and loss of every business customer every 90 days. We're going to spend, we just be able to go through and go, and we're going to pick a problem or a potential concern. We're going to call the customer and we're going to say, hey Mary, it's Bob here, your accountant. Listen, I don't have long. I was just reviewing your profit and loss and I noticed that. And then your cost of goods are up 9%. Your wages seem to be up 6%. Sales are off. Your net profit is down. And then basically the accountant would just say, and so just go and have a look into that for me, and I'll check back in with you. Goodbye. Like I'm talking 3, 4, 5-minute conversations. If they got caught up in it, they just basically had to go, listen, I just noticed it. Go and do some research and come back to me. And so now the client hangs up and they're like, well, that was amazing. My accountant was looking over my figures when I'm not in front of them, and then expecting a bill, and then a bill doesn't come. That was the hardest thing to get through with the accountant, was you cannot charge for this phone call, and they didn't get a bill. And then 90 days later, hey, listen, I was just reviewing your profit and loss again, and I noticed this. And they were just finding little things that were either concerns or not concerns, but just the fact that they communicated with them. It made the client feel like their accountant had their back. They were an advisor. They were looking out for them. They had the best interest. Okay, so they did that, and obviously after a period of time, it got quite laborious for the accountant to be on the phone all day and not doing any billable work. So we actually passed that job to a junior accountant. All right. And then we found that it didn't diminish the value of the call at all when it was not your accountant, but their offsider who did the call. All right. And we just kept reducing the person that did the call down the chain until it became a receptionist, all right, at the firm. And it didn't diminish because it was on behalf of Bob, the accountant. We were just reviewing and we found this. So we got, instead of somebody who's charging $300 an hour for their time, we got it down to somebody who physically costs $20 to $25 an hour for their time and could do so many of them. And it didn't diminish the value. So we started making these calls. Anyway, fast forward over a period of time, we found that the attrition went to zero. They were losing 0 clients. 0. And they're like, I can't believe it. Anyway, we were tracking quite a few numbers and we found there was a secondary benefit. Not only did attrition go to 0, but referrals went from 0.6 a year per customer. So on average, only half the customers would give a referral, up to 1.2 referrals per year per customer as an average. So referral rate doubled because not only were they unhappy, unhappy to leave, they now got really excited and referred their friends. Huge shift for the business. But here's the thing, what would have happened if they did it, for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then just didn't bother doing it anymore? We would just think they didn't care. That was a great initiative. Now you couldn't care less about me. I'll just go find someone else. So you've got to be able to deliver consistently. That's just one example. Another one is a trademarking firm, right, that I work with, right? They just do, trademarks and designs. And they have this beautiful office and this lounge area, beautiful lounges, magazines to read and all this sort of stuff. And those meetings can be delayed because you never really know what you're going to uncover. So sometimes people would be waiting in the lounge prior to their meeting for 5, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. So all we did was we went and got these really nice branded leather menus, like DL size menu leather with the company embossed in it. And then inside were some soft drinks, some snacks, tea and coffee. And then literally as soon as they turned up, the staff member that was on reception would walk around, greet them, sit them down, and they would say, now what would you like? We'll prepare this for you while you're waiting here. And then if they called into their meeting, they'd deliver it into the meeting room. And literally they look at this menu, they're like, oh, can I have a Coke or a bottle of water or some Pringles or some nuts and a coffee? And yeah, sure. And then we would go away and make it and deliver it. Now, it's not even amazing. But, there's margins in the business to be able to deliver on this stuff, and it doesn't really matter. And it was just a wow factor because as simple as that is, hardly anybody does it. But of course, it's the consistency factor, right? So when someone comes in, they're running late, they're just about to go into their meeting, we've got to do it again, and we've just got to do it on the fly. Hey, Mary, last time you had this, do you want to have that again? Yeah, great, I'll bring it into the room for you. And we've delivered every single time, okay? So just thinking about those things through, they don't have to cost money. That one cost a little bit of money. The first one cost time. I've seen businesses that have a very low purchase price and very low margin in their product. And all they do is a very, very simple phone call randomly twice a year from the business owner that goes, hey, I just want to say thanks for the fact that you continue ordering through us. I really appreciate it, and you make doing business fun. Bang. No cost, 30 seconds of time, sometimes a voicemail. And because you just wouldn't expect that from the owner, it has such great wow factor, okay? So you've just got to think about it. It doesn't have to be amazing because no one's doing much anyway out there in terms of wow factor. You just have to make sure you deliver it consistently. Great question.
Question 2 is a private question and asks, I've got 3 staff that do an amazing job and one that always underperforms. The problem is, the one that underperforms has been with me the longest. I just want to sack them. What do I do?
All right, I can see it's a sensitive question. It's come from somebody who's a fan of the show, so probably quite smart to send it through privately. 3 going well, 1 that isn't. It's pretty common in a team to have that one anomaly. It's also kind of common that the worst performer has been around longest or is closest to you because, I don't know, familiarity breeds contempt. They just feel like they don't have to work hard. They feel like maybe just their time with you ends up being the thing that, is like the reprieve for bad performance, which of course it never is. All right, so you just want to sack them, and I get that, but that can't be the first place we go to. All right, they're a human being. We're believers. We've got to treat people kindness, fairness, justice, those things, right? So here's a bit of a kick in the teeth. When I hear that, the first place I go to in my mind is what's the leadership like? Not them, not their performance or lack of performance. The first place I go to is leadership. Are they being directed? Are they in a culture that rewards good behavior? Has the leader been clear on expectations, or is it like most business owners where, they say something once, they think they were incredibly clear, the other person's got no idea what that meant, but they said yes anyway, okay? So the first place I go when I look to blame someone or find the reason, I first look to leadership, not the person. I second look to the system and not the person. I look at the system in place and I go, have we given them a system to succeed? Now the answer could be yes, because 3 are doing well and 1 isn't, okay? And I'm trying to answer this for the greater audience. First I look to leadership, have you let yourself down? Then I look to the system, all right? Have I given them tracks to run on to succeed? If the answer is yes to those, then we finally look to the person, okay? And if we look to the person and they're doing something wrong, before we sack them, we've got to give them some rope. We have to give them some rope. And you may have already given them rope in your little way, but not rope in a structured way. I get to the point where I want to sack them, I will give them one last lifeline. and I'll call them into a meeting. I'll say, we're going to do a program called Average to Awesome. You're currently average. I want to get you to awesome. And then I would set out some milestones. What does awesome look like over the next 4 weeks? We're going to get you from here to here. You know, it could be sales numbers, could be productivity, could be whatever, a whole bunch of indicators. And then so this is where we are. This is where we're going to be in 30 days. We're going to break that down into 4 lots, 4 weeks. So next week on Friday, you and I are going to have a meeting and we will have done these things better. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to have a meeting on the Friday, we will have done these things better. And by week 3 and by week 4, then you'll be awesome, okay? And we set that all out and we write it on a bit of a document and we both agree to it and then we book a meeting for the next Friday. Next Friday rolls around, we pull the document out. Now I'm not having to go at anybody, we're reviewing the document we both agreed to. You said you would do this, this, and this, and this. Yes, you've done it, excellent. Now remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Go do it next week, see you then. Or this, and this. You're falling over, like you didn't pick your game up. You're still turning in late. You're still gossiping about us. You're still on your Facebook half of the day. So week 1, fail. Let's meet next week. Next week, so you're failing again. So if you have to, you get to week 4, you can let them go because it's all documented. You've counseled them. You've tried to help them. Okay, if they ever go to Fair Work and have a whinge, you've got a whole bunch of documentation to supply to say they needed to go. Or they toe the line and they were just trying to get away with it. But the third option is the most common one, is that they can't toe the line. And during that time, it becomes so almost embarrassing that they vote themselves off the island, okay? And that's an interesting switch that you really want to make. By making it really clear, by letting them see that they're failing on their plan, they decide to quit. And that's a much better option than you having to sack them. Because our Labor government ruined our IR laws from a business person's perspective and put too much of the onus onto the employee. That's my opinion. So that's how I would do it. First, look to leadership. Secondly, look to the system. Refine those, make them better. If they are fine, then put the person through a process. And if you have to sack them, great. But we don't want to. That, you know, it costs time, it costs money, it's a huge amount of energy. We want them to work out. We want to do everything we can to get them to work out. Firstly, because we want to be interested in them as people and we want them to prosper and we want them to do well. And secondly, the business. You know, it's upheaval when you've got to get rid of somebody, find a new one, take people to train them and so forth. So we want to give them every opportunity to perform. But if they can't, take them back to average to awesome and move them on. Release them into their next stage of their destiny? Great question. All right, let's go to Word of the Week. All right, this week we are going to go to 2 Chronicles 1:11. And we're going to have an interesting time here. This is what it says. So this is Solomon, and we know a little bit about Solly. He was a great guy. God says to Solomon, since this is your heart's desire, and you've not asked for wealth, possessions, honor, nor the death of your enemies, since you've not asked for a long life, so since you haven't asked for all the stuff that's all about you, but you've asked for wisdom and knowledge to govern my people, or whom I've made you king, therefore wisdom and knowledge will be given to you. So I'll give you what you're looking for, okay? So his prayer was, give me the wisdom and knowledge and a heart to govern your people. And he says, because you didn't ask for money, wealth, honor, prestige, the death of your enemies, long life, I'm going to give you what you asked for, okay? And then he goes, and I will also give you wealth, possessions, and honor, such as no king has had before and no king will ever have after, okay? So we're all pretty sure about that. I'm sure we've all heard it many, many times. Let's bring that into a business context. I wonder, during your prayer time, and I know you would be spending hours, just praying and interceding for yourself and your business. And I wonder though, if we were to peel back the curtain or be a fly on the wall, what exactly are you praying for? What are you praying for? See, I know a lot of business people who are out there and they're praying for, Lord, give me customers. Lord, give me wealth. Lord, give me deals, give me opportunities, give me. But I've worked out that God's way more interested in my character than my accomplishments. So I wonder what would happen if we switched our prayers, okay, from the stuff that matters to me right now to a far, far, far deeper level of relationship with the Lord. For example, instead of, Lord, bring me some customers into my business. Lord, show me the marketing tactic that's going to work. Instead of that stuff, Lord, bring me an investment property. Lord, instead of those prayers, what about if we switched and we started to go, Lord, show me where my character is letting me down. Lord, show me in my character where I'm not living up to my potential with you. Lord, show me the things in my past that I haven't repented for. Lord, show me that stuff. What it does is it deals with us at such a deeper level that the results on the outside change as a byproduct. We end up with a better business, more customers, more cash, more opportunities, more deals, because it doesn't drive us anymore. It's a byproduct of working on ourselves. Because then you realize that the wealth, the possessions, the customers, the money, it's all for everybody else's benefit anyway. But I wonder, because prayer reveals the true heart of a person. What are you praying for? Because quite often when we get put under pressure, short-term cash flow issue, for example, we start to focus on short-term solutions, okay, in our prayer life. It's not evil. It's just not amazing. You know what I mean? Instead of praying for a tactic from the Lord, why don't we pray that we become better sons, better daughters, better stewards of the faith? And watch, when you start to pray for those things, when you cry out for wisdom, when you cry out for understanding, you just start to download things at a much higher level anyway, and you end up with the tactics that get you the more customers and the more money and the bigger deals. But start by looking at us. We've got to go internal. We've got to be vulnerable. We've got to stay humble. We've got to go, Lord, show me where I am letting me down. And watch what happens to the results. You don't need to pray for tactics, okay? Pray for character and watch what happens. All right, so if you've got a question, put it into the comments below. Be super for me. I want to get those questions answered. I'll give you a shout out on the show, and we'll have a whole bunch of fun doing it. All right, I'll see you next week. Until then, bye for now.